Hi guys, I am Mehul Gera. I am a second year student at VIT Vellore. Currently, I am pursuing CSGO. A bit about myself: I am a cloud computing and data science enthusiast, and I also love playing PC games from time to time. Now, without wasting any further time, let's start the session. So, what's cloud computing? Cloud computing refers to the use of hosted services such as data storage, servers, databases, networking, and software over the internet. The data is stored on physical servers, which are maintained by a cloud service provider. So instead of storing files on a storage device or a hard drive, you can save them on a cloud. It will make it possible for you to access the files from anywhere as long as you have access to the web. Now, there are three different types of cloud service models. We'll discuss about them. First is the IaaS. It stands for Infrastructure as a Service. It provides virtualized computing resources over the internet. It's like renting the underlying hardware and infrastructure. So you don't have to buy and maintain the physical service. It's like imagine you're building a house. IaaS is like renting the land, bricks, and building material. Basically, you'll still build the house yourself, but you don't have to worry about where you should get the land or the materials. Second, PaaS. It stands for Platform as a Service. It provides a platform allowing customers to develop, run, and manage applications without dealing with the underlying infrastructure. It's like having a ready to use development environment. For example, it's like a playground with all the equipment set up for you. You just need to show up and start playing with the slides and swings and seesaws without worrying about setting them up. And the last category, SaaS. It's the most common type of example. I'm sure you must have come across it. I'll give an example which all of you must have heard of. Netflix. It's like a streaming platform where you have to pay to consume the software which is behind paywall. It works on a subscription basis. So similarly, SaaS delivers software applications over the internet on a subscription basis. Users can access the software without worrying about installation, maintenance, or infrastructure. Okay, so now we'll talk about the Google Cloud Resources infrastructure. So, the compute engine resources are hosted in multiple locations worldwide. These locations are composed of regions and zones. So, basically, when I'm talking of these resources, I mean the physical data centers that Google has all around the world. Now, say, consider a continent, Europe. It's a multi region. There are a lot of regions inside this continent. It could be Europe, West, East, North, and South. Now, a region is a specific geographical location where you can host your resources. A region is a collection of multiple zones. Zones have high bandwidth, low latency network connections to other zones in the same region. Now, as you can see, the region consists of multiple zones: Europe West to Europe West to B, Europe West to C. Now, what's the point of having so many regions and zones? Say, if you're thinking of hosting a site, it could be a clothing store in Europe. You'll definitely want the latency to be low and bandwidth to be high. So the advantage of having your site being hosted on this region means that the people who are going to access this site from this region, they're going to have low latency. And what's the point of having a site hosted on multiple zones? The advantage is that, say, if due to some physical issues the server gets down, your site will be still up running in the other zone. So this gives the added advantage of your site running all the time without giving any issues. By now, you guys must have a clear understanding of the resources distribution of Google Cloud. And before we continue, I want you guys to have a hands-on experience of the Cloud Console. So we'll be making a new account to access the Google Cloud Console. Just search on Google Google Cloud for Students, and click on the first link. Now, once you make your account, you will be able to access all the free labs and courses which are ready made by Google Cloud, and that's how we'll be able to access the cloud console to continue this course. Now, I'll be skipping the part where you make the account because I already have an account. So, once you're done making your account, you have to search this hands-on tour of Google Cloud Lab. Okay, so if you guys are wondering why do we have to search up these labs separately, it's because Google Cloud resources do require you to pay, and these resources can cost anyone who is trying to use these services. So that's why it was important for us to create a Cloud Skills Boost account so that we as students can access these learning courses. So you can see the start lab button. We have a 45 minutes timer. So basically we are going to get this lab access for 45 minutes, which I believe is more than enough for you guys to learn. Now, moving on towards here, you guys can see what we'll be learning. We'll be learning how to access the cloud console. We'll be able to see how to view the projects in the cloud console, various roles and permissions, how to enable API and other services, and that's it. That's that will give you a basic hands-on experience of Google Cloud Lab. Okay, so once you start the lab, I'm going to start the lab. You'll be seeing these lab details like your username, your password, and your project ID. And here you can see the timer has started. So this username and password is a basically throwaway Google account which you can use to access the cloud console. And here what you're seeing is the project ID, which is used to link the Google Cloud resources and APIs to your specific project. And these IDs are totally unique, which means that your project ID is globally identifiable. Now I want you here to copy the password and open the Google Cloud console in a private window. Now, the reason behind this is that once you use your normal browser, it will start showing up with your other accounts. And since this is a throwaway account, you don't want it spamming up with your other accounts. But for this session, I'll be using a normal tab. Now, as you can see, this student ID has already come in the dialog box. Enter the password you just copied, and as you can see, this is the Google Cloud console. Yes, this is the Google Cloud console. Now there are a lot of options over here, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed, as we'll be only learning the basics. You'll learn everything slowly with time. Now to access all the projects in your console, you have to go to this project name and open the drop down menu. Go to all, and here's how you can see all the projects in your console. Now, the purpose behind this is that there are a lot of projects within an organization, and a lot of people might be working on it. So that's why we have this feature in Google Cloud Console. Now we'll head over to the navigation menu over here. As you can see, there are a lot of options here. We'll be going to IAM over here. IAM stands for Identity and Access Management. So this is a service which you can inspect to modify these roles and permissions. Now you must be seeing over here there are different roles: owner, BigQuery admin, storage admin, editor, and viewer. So basically, there are a lot of projects in the organization. As I told you, owner has access to each and every member in each and every project which are in this organization. They can remove, modify, or delete anyone or any project in this organization. Editor, it gives you the access to the current project, and as you can see, we have the role of viewer over here. So we can't do a lot over here, but as we move on to different labs, we'll get bigger roles so that we'll be able to work with different kinds of services. Now you'll notice over here that here is your project ID. Now this plays an important role because it represents an identity in the cloud identity and access management. This is how the other people in project can identify you. And yeah, so we are done with the IAM. Now we'll head on to API and other services. For beginners who don't know what API exactly is, it stands for Application Programming Interface. So basically, it enables different system and applications to work together. When I'm speaking in terms of cloud computing, over here, it will let us scale our services up and down as needed. Like if we need some resources at some specific moment, it will scale those resources up. And at times when we don't need the resources, it will scale those resources down. As every resource you use in cloud works on pay for use model. You'll be paying for that resource as you're using it. So that's why we don't want the cost to go up as we're not using those resources. For example, banking applications use API services. Like when we are entering our Aadhaar number in some bank application, it sends a request to the API, which is processing and communicating with the government's Aadhaar card database. It later sends a response confirming whether the requested data or Aadhaar number was right or wrong. Now we'll head on to API. Okay, so click here on Enable APIs and Services. Now the API we are looking for is Dialogflow. As you can see, Dialogflow API, click on it and then click on Enable. It might take some few minutes or seconds, so you can wait for it. It will show up here when it's enabled. Yes, as you guys can see, the API is enabled. Now we'll go back. Yeah, as you guys can see, the API is enabled now. We can also click on try this API. So this is how you can get some information about the API you're trying to use. This displays a documentation for it so that you guys can have a basic tutorial of the tool you're using. So that's it, guys. This is the basic hands-on experience of Google Cloud Console. Now head over to the previous window and end the lab. Now I want you guys to know that whatever stuff we discussed over here is mentioned here in detail, so you guys can refer it for your own convenience. Now for the final stage, we'll be learning how to create a virtual machine. This time we'll be using a new way to access the Google Cloud, that is the G Cloud shell. So I want you to search this exact title and search Google Cloud Lab in front of it, and you'll get this link. So we'll do the same steps again. Open the Google Cloud console, use another account. You'll automatically get the ID, copy the password. Okay then. So now for a virtual machine, we'll be needing a predefined machine type with compute engines from Cloud Console. So we'll be going to the navigation menu, compute engine, and from there to VM instances. Now we'll create a new instance. Okay, so I'll tell you what you have to enter exactly, because whatever details you're going to enter, that's going to change the price over here. And if you enter the wrong credentials, then your account might get closed, because these things use heavy resources. So keep the name as GC Lab, keep the remaining things as same. We'll be using series E2 machine type. Yes, we need the E2 medium type only. And the board disk size is also 10 GB. And click on allow HTTP traffic, and then click on create. It can take a few minutes to be created. Once it's created, it will show in the instances page. Yeah, as you guys can see, the instance is now running. Now we'll need an SSH to connect to the virtual machine. Now what you have to do is click on SSH, and a new dialog box will open. You'll have to click on authorize. Now once you have authorized, you must be seeing this window on your screens. So basically, we need a web server to connect to our virtual machine. So we'll be using the SSH client to do this. For those of you who don't know what's a web server, it's used to host websites and applications over the internet. It can serve both static content like HTML files and dynamic files like applications running on servers. Okay, so The current Cloud Shell we are using it's Debian based virtual machine with a 5 GB home directory. I'll be writing a code on Bash, so if you don't understand it, just don't panic. Just try to get the underlying concept behind that code. Now, what this command does is it updates the list of packages and their versions. Basically, it's used before installing new software to ensure that you're getting the latest version of packages. Now we'll be installing the Nginx web server in our virtual machine. And to confirm if it's running, we'll be using the command. Yeah, as you guys can see, the Nginx web server is now operational. So now we'll close this window and we'll create another cloud instance, but this time we'll be using the Google Cloud Shell. Okay, so we'll go back to the dashboard. Now I want you to look at this option. This button activates the Cloud Shell. Okay, so I'll explain the command as I write it. Gcloud compute instances create. Now we'll write the name of the instance here. So we have already made an instance named GC Lab. So this will be GC Lab 2. Machine type E2 medium. Just like how we selected the E2 machine type when we were creating the first instance. Zone is equal to. Now it will ask for authorization. Authorize it. Okay, so I have tried running this command multiple times, but yeah, it's normal to come across this issue. Sometimes the gcloud shell gives this issue, but you can always try to repeat the lab again, and it will start working fine. Once the gcloud compute instance starts working, all you have to check is the output. It should be showing like this. Now what you have to do is to connect it to the ssh, you have to run this command. And yeah, that's another way of creating a virtual machine. So in today's session, we got a hands-on experience of Google Cloud Shell and console, and we learned to create a virtual machine using two ways: using the cloud console and the gcloud shell. Now before we end the session, I want to share one last thing. This is the Google Cloud Arcade. Basically, They provide you points for completing the courses. They have weekly and monthly challenges. You can use the access code to register in them. And before that, you have to make your own account over here. The more points you collect, you can buy more goodies. So basically, this is a way of motivating yourself to complete these cloud computing courses. I hope you guys liked the session. Uh, do like the video and share it. Thank you.